Hello and welcome to the new year of the Varietal Show. My name is Rory. You're on Varietal Literature's YouTube page, which is a bunch of writers from Vancouver who just really enjoy narrative. And what this stream is a write-along stream. And what a write-along stream is where we kind of do whatever we want with writing. Usually I apply some structure. You don't have to follow it. You could work on your own work. Well, I hang out in the background, or you can throw your own recommendations in if you're not a person who enjoys writing. Or you can write your own stuff and put it in the chat. And as long as it's not like horrible, I'll probably read it aloud in the course of the stream. And what we're talking about tonight is January, because I don't know a person in my life who isn't having a terrible time, and I want to take it out on January, because I hate January. Hate's a strong word, but January's a strongly hateable month. And we'll get into why I hate January, and what it means to turn a month into a character, like a literary character with a backstory, a festival, and a weakness. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have fun with creativity. I see Big Drew and GS are in the chat. Hello, Big Drew and GS. Happy New Year to you all. By the way, the other show we do on this channel weekly is Fireside Fairy Tales, and that's why this is set up the way it is, because I'm doing ghost stories all month, traditional folklore ghost stories, not like some guy came up with it in his house, but a community of people came up with the reported stories and so on of ghosts. German and Nordic folklore. We're doing ghosts all month. So we just did a bunch about mountain ghosts, basically, which is a variety of different things. And we may do ghosts that bowl, which is a whole genre of ghost stories in German folklore. Bowling ghosts. We might be doing that next Tuesday. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Because I try to keep things interesting for people who like stories and writing. With that said, if you're not watching this live and you're like, my God, I just want to hear the story, I just want to see how they turn a character, I just want to see the writing, whatever it is, the description below will have timestamps. Click on those timestamps, it'll take you where you want to go. But here's one timestamp that we're going to get to right away, and that is Left on Red. Left on Red is where I describe to you books that I have left on red, which is my own terrible pun that I will not let go. And that is something that I liked. I know that's not usually what left on red means. It's something that I left on red, that I read all the way through. So it could be books, TV shows, video games, anything that's kind of narrative focused that I think is good. But today it's a book. And the book I'm recommending to you, and I apologize now for what will certainly offend generations of a respectful language going back tens of thousands of years, Tak to Me, an anthology of Arctic horror stories. Now this is something that was gifted to me over the holidays. I'll put it close up again. It is a collection of horror stories, largely from Inuit and so on communities, writers. And I'm not all the way through it, but I've read quite a few stories from it. It is very unique in how it structures. And let me tell you, there is few fertile beds of horror than being in a place that gets no sun, all ice, and you can get lost walking home and die. It is an excellent book if you're a fan of horror, which I do write horror now and then, so it's potentially some of my followers like horror. By the way, if you haven't seen it, a story that I wrote called Follow the River Home is on this channel. And it's like 5 minutes of your time. It's me reading, has sound effects and some video, but it's mostly a short story about following the river home, and it is a horror story. Okay, that's enough about me. Let's see how chat is doing. I see more people in there. Just Fleece It Out says, you are correct. January is the worst. It is. I will make my case. Big Drew says, hi GS, hi Rory. Hope the holidays and ridiculous weather were good to you. The weather, I wish it had snowed a little longer, because, you know, we were basically into Christmas. Like Christmas Eve, it all melted away, and it's just rained. It's rained literally every day since then. If you want to know what Vancouver is, it's a rainforest. Um, Gia says, I'm a Christmas clinger. Oh, that's a good question. Are you guys the types to be like, thank God Christmas is done, let's get on with the year? Or do you cling on? Because I'll tell you what I'm looking at right now. My fully dressed Christmas tree and my garland all lit up. And you might say, well, Rory, that's because you're lazy. And well, that is accurate. I am a lazy person. That is not why this is up. Also, I'm not really a lazy person. I wish I was lazier than I was. I would feel more rested. Yeah, I'm definitely a person who hangs on to Christmas as long as I can. Which takes me, though, to lit games, hashtag literature games. Lit games are where we do things that are kind of like expressive games. They're not games in the truest sense, because how do you measure creativity in a quantifiable way, and comparable way in that way? But what they are is basically some structures where we try to be creative around them. It's usually me writing, but sometimes people join in the chat and they give their own versions of the stories and so on. Anyways, what we're doing today is a sort of variation on something we've done before. So we've turned potatoes and coffee into characters. We've sort of characterized those before. If you don't know, you should check out the Varietal show's playlist. You'll see it's very clearly marked when it's about those things. But the reason, and we did it with fruit too. But what we're doing here is we're taking the concept of January, the month, and we're going to give it a kind of mythological figure. So if that is too confusing, I'll sort of just start writing. And as we go along, you guys can either start your own projects and put them in the chat, or you can give me ideas if you don't want to write a whole thing yourself. And I'll be happy to integrate whatever I can find a way to integrate of your recommendations. That is lit games, which means it is time to lit a game. To light a game. Is that? To literize a game. Big Drew says, my recommendation is a movie called They Came Together. It's an absolutely hysterical, has a terrific ensemble cast. If you like Airplane, you'd like They Came Together. Well, I do like Airplane. I go all in. I hate to admit it. I don't think I've seen a really good one in a while, but I do like live action slapstick, which is what I would call that. Okay, so I'm calling this segment... Oh, my screen's out of whack here. I'm calling this statement, and we called it January. I'm going to adjust this a bit. Because I like the kind of doomed tone of it. Is that gonna... Nope. By the way, if you're wondering why in the intro it was like Hawaii... the simple reason for that is I refuse to accept what January has given me. Okay, so like I'll give you like a really like brief 60-second. Here, I'll even set a timer so I don't get distracted. I'll give you a 60-second version of what I'm going to do, and then we can do a more expansive version. We don't have to use any of this. But I know sometimes my descriptions aren't exactly on point, so I'm gonna do this. Okay, here we go. 60-second timer. No. Sorry, have to fix my light. Okay. January crawls out of the swamp of a melted December, and we must... I'm just trying to do this in like 60 seconds to give you an idea of what I mean. And we must freeze it again by putting on a festival of frosty drinks. And that's why we celebrate Margarita Day in January. There you go. In 60 seconds, I'll even Um, so, there's like an example of what I mean by like giving a little story, something hopefully we can tie to a festival so that at least people that partake in this channel can be like, it's January. And a part of my personal beliefs is that, you know, the third Monday in January, we all book off work and get drunk on margaritas or something to defeat the swamp monster of January. So what we need to kind of do is put together like an image of it. But I think actually the place to start, ignoring what I've done so far, the place to start is let's get a list going of the things that stand out as being specifically January. So January traits. Before we try to build a character, let's get the January traits down. And this is kind of how I write characters sometimes. If I need a character to sort of represent something, I'll put down the traits first. So for you guys, like for example, up here, it's just wet. Even when it's not raining, it's wet. Dark. No sunlight. We're like doing an idea board here. So start putting stuff in there that's you associate with January. And if you associate something positive with January, go for it. But I don't think anyone's going to be putting positive stuff in January. So bad. Short days. Big Drew says, if I lived in a climate that was warm and dry this time of year, I'd host a musical festival and call it Jamuary. Well, okay. But we can't leave a pun like that on the table. Maybe there's some way we can work in jam to our holiday. Because here's the thing. Most holidays are like ghosts are coming or spirits are coming. But if we celebrate loud enough, the spirits go away. So maybe we could like have a jam party in January that somehow relates to lore about scaring off January. By the way, if you're watching this and your name is January, I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a very pleasant person. I'm sorry that your parents hated you so much to name you January. It's not your fault. Okay, so we got boring, ignorant, brooding, restful. I don't get much rest in this one. Or at least the rest doesn't feel meaningful. Vapid, benign. Yeah, benign's a good word for it. Because, like, even if you don't have strong feelings against January, what the hell is January's identity? Which is kind of where I'm coming from with making a character. Like, we associate February to a Cupid. Maybe a groundhog, but generally Cupid. We associate March to, like, St. Patrick's Day and Easter, depending on, whether you're more a drinker or a churchgoer, I guess. And then April's spring, so who cares? Like, things are lightening up. It doesn't need its own holiday. Although my birthday's in April, as everyone on this channel knows. But yeah, I feel like January is left off the bill. And don't give me that New Year's Day is in January. No, it's not. Just because it's on January 1st doesn't mean anything. We all know that January actually is the last 3 weeks. Okay, Big Drew says amphibious. I don't know how that's related, but let's put it in. Okay, so January traits. Wet, dark, no sunlight, short days, boring, ignorant, brooding, restful, vapid, and benign, amphibious. So, do we think that January is, let's start with choice here. Do we think they're going to be sort of a sneaky little gremlin or a mopey ghost, right? Like I know those aren't the only two choices, but those are the two that I have in my mind. And I'm not sure if it's like that active, because what I'm seeing here with this restful, vapid, benign is I feel like it should be sort of not an Eeyore. Eeyore is more fun. That I'm thinking like I sort of, the drowned ghost trope where they're walking around the wetland. A jerk, GS says. That's an interesting take. Okay. Jealous of December. Okay, I like this. Okay, so I got to start creating a character here. So January is a thin, nearly transparent beast. Where do you think it comes from? Like, there's always a good mythology, like it was born of this or it was pulled out of that. What is like the most January thing you would pull a life out of? To put in perspective, like for example, in Hebrew mythology or Christian Bible, anyways, you know, God breathes into dirt, and that's where you get people like us from in their mythos. So, like, yeah, you know, what is January's story? Big Drew says a rusty barnacle of a month. The bowels of gel. I like this. The bowels of hell. But I like gel. I like the idea of gel. How about I like the idea that it kind of comes out of a jelly on the beach. You know, when you get like some sort of sea creature washes up on the beach. I'd like the idea that it crawls out of that. Because I feel like that's January to me. It's like a half-rotted, kind of gelatinous, gross, constantly damp thing that is associated to just death. So January is a thin, nearly transparent creature that stretches. Holly's house says I've made it. What are we doing? I'm not sure how to describe it succinctly. Maybe someone in chat can help me out. Big Drew says the mucus of a sickly whale. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. How do you put that in mythos terms? So January is a thin and nearly transparent creature that stretches forth from the slime of a beached whale. Pushed there by fatigue. From December's ceaseless noise and clamor. Gia says, is it thin or gelatinous? Well, I mean, it can be thin and gelatinous. Gelatinous is a quality of the tissue. Big Drew says, Nick's beached and go with rotting. Rotting implies that it's still moving around. Are we okay with that? Because I'm thinking of myself like in January. I wash up into January fat and sad and unable to move off my beach. Okay. Pushed there by fatigue from December's ceaseless noise and clamor. Oh, that's a good one. Just lease it out. January is a master of gaslighting you into failure on the promise of positive change. Oh, you guys got good ideas. Okay, I'm gonna need to start tying stuff together, or we're not gonna have a story. Okay, so pushed there by fatigue from December's ceaseless noise and clamor. It is unclear in its purpose, but is most often seen as a slow-moving and hunched. Wisp of a person, of a human, of a... It is said that it cannot come ashore save for January, as it cannot stand the lights of joyful seasons, the noise of love, or the dry comfort of a sun. Instead, it festers to its most prominent in the decline, into its most prominent form. In the decline of all good and hopeful things. Holly's House says, well, Capricorn is a goat fish, so maybe we can go with some sort of horned demonic sea creature. Wonder if there's a way to work that in. I think we, I don't know. Let me think about that. Maybe that could be like something it rides. Instead, it festers to its most prominent form in the decline of all good and hopeful things. During the thaw of joy comes January. If you see it. Oh, I see there's some debate about whether I'll see comments. So, just to be clear, my comment scroll is much bigger than the average YouTube users. So, the odds that I'll miss something is pretty low. So, to be clear, like, I can see all the way up to Holly's first message here. What I do sometimes miss, though, is if in a stack of comments somebody puts, like, 2 or 3 words that are off the theme. If you see it, you will see that it watches the clouded sky and whispers hope to the bleak and endless rain. Travelers who have followed it. Is that not? Oh, I think we went through this. 1L is American. If you see it, you will see that it watches the clouded sky and whispers hope to the bleak and endless rain. Travelers who have followed in its trail of slime report that that its voice fills your head and speaks of summer, sun. January sings a mellow song of hope. But do not be deceived. This is hitting on Just Fleece It Out stuff. For hope is not its trade. Once you find a glowing golden thought that may carry you through such bleak and terrible times, January slobbers over you with its slime and sucks the light from your very mind. Almost rhymes. Holly's House says January Cryptid is a suicide siren. Yeah. I think that's probably pretty on point. Big Drew says, I once heard the stretch of winter from early January to mid-February as a cold gray bucket of suck. Yeah, I agree with it. Everyone's got some great ideas. GS says, along Just Fleece It's theme, January is a traveling salesman who offers goods which are quickly brought by guilt-ridden celebrants. Its voice plants seeds of doubt in your mind, the harvest of which is broken promises and failed resolutions. I think I can work that line in, Big Drew. It's very poetic. I like it. Straight up thieve it. Now, you may wonder, you may consider that the way to avoid this is to simply never follow or listen to January. But January is handed the cosmic keys by December and will not relent them to February unless their time is filled with their hopeless presence. Holly's House says, I like the idea of a transformative or rotting spirit, like it births in November as a benevolent, light-giving type creature. The further you move into December and into January, it becomes more corpse-like and reveals its true form. Wow, everybody's got different ideas. This is great. Should do this more often. I mean, if I could start over Holly's House, I would probably do that. But I don't think I can backfill that into here. But I do like the idea that it is in collusion with December. Yeah, Holly's House says it gives joy during the holiday season in exchange for January Souls. Maybe I could work it as like a last minute twist. GS says January sells the hope, but July is the judge and jury. You failed. Okay. So I want to incorporate GS's recommendation here. So you will hear a knock upon your door during those days which January holds. And upon opening, it will find the gray visage of a friend you once knew, now leached of their hope. If you turn them away, then you will let then you turn them to the hungry arms of January. The proper thing is to call them in and let them sit by your fire. Now, when you do this, another knock will come, and this one will be January. From beyond the door, for you can never open it, or all hope will be drained from the home. January will promise many things. It will say that you can be thin, rich, happy, and loved. You just need to try harder. To each of these, the traditional response must be my misfortunes are mine to contend with, but not a punishment for a fault. For this runs January away, which sought only to couch guilt. Into hope. I guess I could do it like collected folklore, where we could talk about variations. Given how often the slimy cryptid leans on weight loss or guilt about weight gain, in some regions, there you go. There's your folklore. In some regions, January is considered either a twin or a rotted form of December spirits. In these realms, or in these regions, I guess, realms is a little bit poetic. Because December spirits are focused on feasting. In these regions, January is considered a time of soil, a time of pondering the quiet rotting that a future grows from. January is said to be a lumbering carcass that falls down and turns to soil, which will thaw in the spring. Okay, Big Drew says January is the result of Santa Claus's exhaustion and hibernation, for if he were still awake, the remainder of the season wouldn't be so bleak and miserable. It does have pretty sunrises, though. If it has sunrises, I don't know them, because in Canada, I'd say it has cloud rises, cloud setting, clouds all day, clouds at night, just clouds and rain. Rain and cloud. We don't even get cool fog like they do in England, because they get a lot of rain in England, but they get thick fog, which is kind of cool. We don't get fog. We just get rain. Just endless rain. Holly's House says, now you're making me think of a spirit with these hideous dog-like creatures that accompany her, and the dogs are gluttony and indulgence. I like that too. Man, like, don't let me hold anybody back. If you guys want to write your own little mythos, all I ask really is that you put it in the comments of this video so I can read them next time. If you want to make your own version of January. GS says, not in bikini shape by summertime as promised, carrying on with the idea of judge and jury. And then shows an emoji of a lovely little polka dot bikini. And then an emoji of a pig face. We are all going to be transformed for the better in 2023, right? January promised, and I believed her. I'm going to put that in as my conclusion. Still, one must be wary of January. I didn't mean to do that, and it works. If it looks as if January has supped on the dreams of a friend, then you must call them in to the warmth, to your warm hearth. If January promises you change, if only you were to give up all of yourself to a goal, know that is a lie. Used to suck light from you. For as they say, January promised actually, I'll do this as sort of poetic prose. January promised, and I believed her. February came. So when? So February. There to meet her. All right. Let's see what we came up with. If you are clicking on this part of the video, then it might mean that you have clicked the timestamp and jumped ahead. So what did we do today? Well, we tried to characterize January as a kind of legendary creature. I had a little example, but I'm not going to read it aloud here. I'm going to go into the stuff that we did as a group. So, first of all, January traits. This was a list of stuff that we came up with that January made us think of, because none of us really like January as a month. Wet, dark, no sunlight, short days, boring, ignorant, brooding, restful, vapid, benign, amphibious, and jerk. And then there was a bunch of stuff that went on in chat that I think, frankly, was better than mine. So I'd encourage you guys to go back and look at it. So here's what we came up with, keeping in mind that it kind of changed as we went along. January is a thin, nearly transparent creature that stretches forth from the slime of a beached whale, pushed there by fatigue from December's ceaseless noise and clamor. It is unclear in its purpose, but is often seen as a slow-moving and hunched wisp of a human. It is said that it cannot come ashore save for January, as it cannot stand the lights of joyful seasons, the noise of love, or the dry comfort of a sun. Instead, it festers to its most prominent form in the decline of all good and hopeful things. During the thaw of joy comes January. If you see it, you will see that it watches the clouded sky and whispers hope to the bleak and endless rain. Travelers who have followed in its trail of slime report that its voice fills your head and speaks of summer sun. January sings a mellow song of hope. Ah, but do not be deceived, for hope is not its trade. Once you find a glowing golden thought that may carry you through such a bleak and terrible time, January slobbers all over you with its slime and sucks the light from your very mind. Now you may consider that the way to avoid this is to simply never follow or listen to January, but January is handed the cosmic keys by December and will not relent them to February unless their time is filled with their hopeless presence. You will hear a knock upon your door during those days which January holds, and upon opening it you will find the grey visage of a friend you once knew, now leached of their hope. If you turn them away, then you turn them to the hungry arms of January. The proper thing is to call them in and let them sit by your fire. Now when you do this, another knock will come, and this one will be January. From beyond the door, for you can never open it or all hope will be drained from the home, January will promise many things. It will say that you can be thin, rich, happy, and loved. You just need to try harder. To each of these, the traditional response must be, my misfortunes are mine to contend with, but not a punishment for a fault. For this runs January off, which sought only to couch guilt into hope, not to bring real hope. Given how often this slimy cryptid leans on weight loss or guilt about weight gain, in some regions January is considered either a twin or a rotted form of December spirits, because December spirits are focused on feasting. In these regions, January is considered a time of soil, a time of pondering the quiet rotting that a future grows from. January is said to be a lumbering carcass that falls down and turns to soil, which will thaw in the spring and bring forth life. Still, one must be weary of January, wary of January. If it looks as if January has supped on the dreams of a friend, then you must call the friend into your warm hearth. If January promises you change, if only you were to give up all of yourself to a goal, you know that is a lie used to suck light from you. For as they say, January promised and I believed her, so February came and I wasn't there to meet her. Big Drew says, January is a lying witch. She shall be burnt upon the altar of love on 14th of February, as is tradition. One thing I wanted to do was come up with a holiday, but I guess we never really did that. Oh well, it's not absolutely necessary. I wanted to like make a holiday in January around it. This is so far off. But if you are watching this not live, or if anybody in the chat feels so inclined, if you want to take a mythos and then try to make a holiday in January out of it, put it in the comments and I'll read it next time. And maybe we can make up a holiday for January and create like traditions and celebrate it every year, because man, does January suck. GS says, how'd you write that, Rory? That was amazing. Thank you. We wrote that. I didn't write that. We did that together. You know, if you're having a hard time in January, I hope the show helps you, by the way. But if not, nothing wrong with reaching out to people for help, by the way. You are deserving of love, and I love you just the way you are. So don't let January get their slimy little hands on you. Big Drew says burn the Christmas tree day. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing that because you guys had so much stuff. Just like sketch it out and put it in the comments, and I'll look at it next week. I don't know what I'm doing next week. I'm gonna try and do things that I like to do more this year with the Varietal show. I don't know how that's gonna pan out. It's not that I didn't like doing this stuff before. It's that my first thought was always like, how do I make this broadly appealing? And I think sometimes what happened was I didn't have a lot of ideas about the topics that I came up with, which I felt would be popular. So I'm going to focus a bit more on, I mean, this channel is largely me. There is something I really want to do with Avalon. She said she might be able to make January. If we do, I think there's a fun thing we can do. There's a game I have been sitting on for a while. That is an actual game. It's not my own design, but that I think would be fun. But whatever it is, you know, hopefully you guys will enjoy. If you like ghost folklore, check it out Tuesdays. And I guess beyond that, don't forget to like, and if you like this anyways, and subscribe if you haven't already. We've had a pretty good couple of months with subscribers for me. Big Drew says, you're all beautiful, be blessed, and know that you are loved. Also, get the F out of my shop. Yeah, anyways, there you go. First Varietal show back. I know I kind of implied that I'd be back last week, but I remembered after I'd said that, and I was sitting at home, I remembered that, like, almost no one watched the first week of January shows that I did. And these things actually take a surprising amount of effort for how probably loose-knit and slapped together they feel. They actually take a great deal of planning. So I was like, you know what? Nobody's watching it. We'll go 2 weeks. So we're back. Anyways, that's enough rambling from me. Thank you so much for coming by. You don't have to go home, but get off my side of the beach.